Okay, this is the start of open office hours, so we'll see who joins. It's just sort of an open time that anybody could join and ask questions. Oh, hey, Ryan. So, this style of audio channel you might know because you use Discord. Um, I can bring you on stage so that you could talk and then we can actually chat. There we go.
Hold on.
Hey, Ryan.
1 second.
Sure.
Actually, I'm going to have to reload Discord because I just added a new microphone and it's not seeing it. I'll be right back.
Okay. Hey, Sean. You can pick yourself and invite yourself to speak because I said it so that I believe that any of us in PS can do that. Or I can invite you to speak. There we go. It's a different style channel than the other one. And I'm recording this, by the way, just in case something interesting happens.
Okay.
So,
I take it you can hear me.
yes. Yeah, this is like Clubhouse, if you've ever used Clubhouse, where the only people that can speak are the ones that get brought up on stage, which makes it a little easier to hear, because then the person asking questions might have audio and then everybody else doesn't unless they have a question, then they can sort of ask. And there's Ryan again, and I can invite him up to speak because he'd be the only one. Hey, Ryan.
There we go. Helps if I turn the
Perfect.
headset on after connecting it to the
Yeah, that does work.
Ugh.
So,
Hold on. I need to close my door.
sure.
That way I don't bother people. So how are y'all?
Good. And these ones, sometimes there's a lot of people on them, sometimes just a couple. I picked to record it just in case something interesting, happened, but
I
um,
got you.
usually usually when there's a lot of people, unless you bring a really good question, uh, usually
No,
when
I just
there's
have a.
yeah,
I need to go put it. I need to go put in another feature request.
what
My
was it
headache
about?
today has. My headache today has reminded me for the great need of native dark mode.
Oh, you know, in the native app, right? Because in the web app, there's actually a Chrome extension I found that I think it's called like Dark Everywhere or something. It
Yeah.
actually can make websites dark that don't have a dark mode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a Chrome extension for sure, but that doesn't help you with the native app. It would be
No, it
kind of
doesn't.
cool. It would be cool if somebody made something that could somehow do that, but I imagine that would be near impossible with an application.
Probably.
So, yeah, I think the
Um.
dark anywhere for websites probably takes advantage of doing the same things they do for colorblind people. They'll
Oh
pick
yeah.
certain
Probably.
colors and make them just darker equivalents. So,
Um. Yeah. So we've been contemplating how to make our summer imaging process a little bit better. or at least to give a visual signifier for
Oh,
our technicians on to know when it's done, like checking
yeah,
in.
yeah.
So I've added an image file to the desktop that is basically an exclamation point. It's an exclamation point and a yellow caution triangle symbol. It's just an image file. But then I created a file set that starting May 1st will start to delete that. It's set to delete from the desktop, but it's set lowest install priority
Right, right.
in hopes that everything else will go, and then it'll get that, and then the tech will know that it's done everything it needs to do.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that when Em and I were
Yeah.
there, that you wanted to have some way that they could just be like, "Oh, I know all the things that we expect to happen initially are done."
Right.
And
Right. Exactly. So we've yeah, I've it's a simple script. It's just a delete command through a batch
yeah,
file. So
okay.
decided to have some fun. I've started capturing images as well, so it's been interesting already.
Did you and now you had the problem where we upgraded your IVS and there were kernel files missing. Do you think that
Yes,
was do you think that was that the kernel RPM wasn't published the day we did it and we just didn't notice that it didn't really
possibly,
install? Okay.
possibly, but like it was only affecting legacy devices.
Yeah.
Um, Nobody was having trouble with UFI devices, which you know what I'm fine with. We only really have so in our district we still only have about 2,400 to 2,800 legacy devices, and out of those, there should only be about 400 that should be gotten rid of, and there should be about 1,000 that should be changed to UFI.
Yeah.
And so there's only really about another 12 to 1,600 UFI only, and those are our panels. So I'm trying to get rid of legacy imaging anyway. I can't yet, but I'm trying to phase it out. Um, a lot of the drive for us to move to more MDM style setup is this need to quote unquote not get left behind technology wise. So when our director and our engineers and our people go to conferences, nobody's talking about imaging, but that's because everybody's pushing MDM.
Right.
Because a lot of places, Microsoft, Apple, etc., a lot of those people talking about MDM, they're trying to sell that product. And so they won't talk about imaging because imaging doesn't make bank, right? Not anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so, but in a situation like ours where imaging is just how we do, I mean, it's how we do things, and we're looking at like why are we thinking about going to MDM over imaging and all that kind of stuff? And we realize that a lot of it is just this drive to not get left behind. But if that's the reason, then why are we still allowing legacy devices in our system that are over 5 years old? These
Yep.
devices have been in the system for 5 years. They should be phased out. They should have been gotten rid of, but we're holding on to them because they quote unquote work. But really, it requires a lot of extra work. So, under the guise of is this are we really trying to just not get left behind? If we are, then we need to do everything to not get left behind. Or is it just because that's what everybody's talking about right now? And our process works for us. It doesn't really feel like we'd be getting rid of a lot of extra work, especially that first summer that we would choose to do it.
Hmm.
So it's just there's a lot of thought processes and stuff that we're trying to work through mentally before we just jump over into it. Also, we have to test things.
Yeah.
We got a lot to test.
Yeah, yeah. And Sean, just so you know, like it's Windows systems where they hand them out, let's say to a student. A lot of their students don't have, fast internet necessarily. It could take, or
Or internet
yeah,
at all.
lots of internet challenges, I suppose. And so
Hmm.
the device can't be handed to them and then download all the stuff because the student may not be able to download all the stuff, and then they may not be able to get started with working on their classwork if they're doing it from home. Um, So they try to have the devices fully imaged or fully set up when they're handed to the student. So Windows imaging has, still been the popular choice, because over doing like the Apple way of, just having plain old Windows and then install everything through file sets.
Yep, makes sense.
Hi, Sean. I'm Ryan. I don't know if we've met before.
I don't believe we have, no. But you have an awesome name, because my son's called Ryan, so there we go.
It's a good name. It's a good name.
Mhm.
I'm with Bibb County Schools. Oh, well, I guess that says that in my nickname on the server. With Bibb County Schools in Macon, Georgia. We've been using FileWave for what, 3-4 years now, Josh?
Yes, three,
2019.
yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah. Started with the person in my position before me started, and then I had to pick it up. And I've largely been trying to reinvent the wheel over here, figuring out what works better for our district and building the processes and the policies for us to do so, and then having to also build the back end side of that with the file sets and the images and that kind of stuff. So, Josh, dear Lord,
Yeah.
Microsoft in October. Did you see the patch notes about the domain join, Active Directory domain join issue? Did we talk about it last week when y'all were here?
You talked about that the account that originally joined the device to AD, if it later is gone or disabled, that you
Mhm.
have issues joining that device again to AD in the future.
Correct, because there was a security patch that they patched out back in October, and I can send you the bleeping computer article that I was reading. Basically, they've patched out to where, for a measure of security, if a device leaves Active Directory when it comes to rejoin, it has to be rejoined by the same account that originally did it, unless the account has domain admin privileges.
Yeah.
Well, we had some issues where our older device, basically in the unattend file, the domain password is listed in plain text.
Mm-hmm.
We also realized that the unattend file was in a place where students could access. And our students figured out found that, and were starting to utilize that that admin level account. They were logging in as that account, and basically having free reign over their devices. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah, it's great. So we've done a couple of things to mitigate. We disabled that account entirely. We were no longer using that account for anything, and so other than the domain join, and so we disabled that account entirely. We created a new account that specifically and explicitly only allows devices to join the domain. But that happened about a year and a half ago. And we've only added about 5,000, 6,000 devices since that swap. We
Yep.
have started trying to rename older devices, but there's probably about 17 to 20,000 devices that were joined with the correct name before that new account. And so our technicians are running into where they are imaging a device with the new unattend file that has the new account, and it fails. And then they have to try and rejoin it. But to rejoin it, they have to delete, because even our techs are not listed as domain admins. They
Right.
have some admin privileges, but they are not domain admins. So they have to go in and delete the client and then add it back. So what I've actually done is, on the image, I've added the registry key that Microsoft says, hey, don't leave this as a permanent solution. It's on the image. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm also, like we did the delete the ping file off the desktop that we're going to work on, I'm also going to create a thing that deletes the registry key as part of that. And we're deleting. We've also moved the unattend file into a profile that is password protected. that the students can't get to. But then we're also going to delete that unattend file on check-in as well. That first check-in will delete the unattend. So we've done a lot to mitigate them getting the access. But then we're also trying to work around Microsoft closing down and getting rid of features, which is quite annoying. And this is this is why I start in March building our images.
Putting the file, deleting the file is good. Putting it in a profile so that it's protected. Do you BitLocker encrypt your machines?
We don't. We do not
Because
BitLocker encrypt yet. We are testing BitLocker encryption on about 3 to 5 devices right now that are in district. Our CIO is one of those devices, so we're just testing it out.
Okay, because I say that because obviously if you weren't deleting the file, then I could slave the drive potentially and still get to the file no matter where it sits on the drive. So
Right.
BitLocker gives you that, like, you know, they simply can't get to it. It would take them like 130 years.
We're working on rolling out BitLocker because we know that it's a level of security, and we're especially looking at rolling out BitLocker on our staff devices mostly. Student devices, we're not sure if we want to roll it out yet. We know it would be an extra layer of security, but as long as the deletion of that unattend file is happening, we're
yes,
largely okay.
It's pretty good. It's mostly okay. So you'd be protected mostly from the students trying to get to it.
Right.
The bad actor that's more advanced, and it's probably more a risk for like when I worked at a security company, right? Like if we had that process, and we were not BitLocker encrypting, somebody could slave the drive and recover the deleted file. You know, the potential's there. But for you, like, there's probably not that. I mean, it depends though. If you have really good computer classes in the school system, then somebody might.
Well, the last line of defense there is we also have a BIOS password. Basically, unless somebody is booting into the hard drive on the computer, or so they would have to like dismantle it, take the drive out, and slave it to another device.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to use Windows PE, like a USB key with Windows PE, because they would require our BIOS password. So we do have a few devices that are using the we have some devices that are capable of ignoring we're able to set it to where it only prompts for the BIOS password if they try to do anything but load into the hard drive, or also Pixie boot, so we can make it easier for our technicians where they don't have to where they don't have to put in the password to image. But we can't do that on all devices because it's it's a new feature.
Yeah, and the BIOS password, kind of neat that in the past few years, a lot of OEMs
don't interrupt.
Sure.
There's a one in the audience. Do they need to be invited or?
Oh yeah, you have permissions too. You can right click on them and say invite them to speak.
Yeah.
Invite to speak, because they also, so everybody knows, there's a little raise your hand button where somebody could ask to speak. It's kind of the Clubhouse way of doing it.
I don't have that option.
Oh, then I have to look at your permissions, but I will invite to speak, and then I'll look at the permissions after. I thought I made everybody in PS able to do that in the audio channels. So that's a good test. Hey, Sean.
Hey.
So, the thing I was saying was lately, in the past few years, OEMs have been making it so you can manage the BIOS passwords through their tools.
Correct.
Because the BIOS password is something that could be compromised and that you might want to change. And I know that Lenovo does it. I'm pretty sure the Dell tool does it.
Dell does, yeah.
So that you can cycle that BIOS password, using FileWave potentially.
Actually, that's how we're getting the BIOS password initially on the devices that have been in the district longer. Is we're using the Dell PowerShell command tool to load the script and then push the BIOS password out. It's been largely successful. I had. Yep, I have a. I still have. Lord, really? That many devices? We got a lot of devices that still haven't. And I will say, a lot of this, the reason why is because we have an egregious amount of devices in our system. We have a lot of devices that just have decided that they don't want to be used. So they're sitting in a cart somewhere in a classroom, never being opened since we've implemented the BIOS password. So it's an egregiously high number right now. Granted, also if they're off whenever they do their check-in each day, that 24-hour refresh, it'll never populate. So I'm actually going to start looking to see why some of these aren't pushing properly. The number's higher than I thought it would be. I was
So
mostly
Sean,
just coming in to hang out. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly good to chat, and I wondered if Sean had any questions.
No, I'm here to go with the flow on things. Most of my stuff is Mac OS devices. One thing that I learned in our FileWave Assist class or session was to create a custom field for last inventory so that it gives me a better check on client health per se. I mean, basically the custom field just runs the date.
Yep.
So that is a better, that's a better indication of client health than last connection. I think the only other thing that I probably would want to add is try to get maybe like the last, or maybe save it to a temp file or some log file on the client so I can get like the last 10 times it did inventory to develop a pattern.
Oh yeah, no, that wouldn't be too hard to do on Mac or Windows, to have a file that it kind of makes it always be, let's say, 10 entries, and it would add a new one and clip off the oldest one. That wouldn't be too difficult at all.
So, yeah, if I'm catching the tone of the conversation regarding the BIOS password, then something like having the history of the last 10 would give you some type of indication of the activity of that particular device.
Yeah, because folks, will see there's different reasons that a device won't submit inventory. But I had seen it a lot recently on server setups where there were a good amount of devices on the server, but there were no boosters set up, and the server was really struggling. And we need, at FileWave, we really need the dashboard to give you some kind of indication that that's not acting in a healthy way, I guess, that the server's so busy that it's rejecting inventories, because inventories always come to the server, and when the server's too busy, um, then it will tell a client to come back. Clients are supposed to try again. I forget the interval. It might be as much as every couple of seconds that they try, but they will try to resubmit the inventory. But I've seen cases where it didn't happen. But once I got everything sorted out with the boosters, then inventories seem to flow pretty well.
Right. Now, would we have to write the date in the course of this custom field? If we were writing the date history to a temp file, would we have to do that with a file set, or could we get away with doing it in a custom field?
No, you could do it in the custom field. So basically, the custom field could look to see if I mean, basically, the logic of the script would be look to see if the file exists, right? And if it doesn't exist, then
Hmm.
it's writing the first entry to it. If it does exist, then use something to um, so depending on how it is, maybe you tail the last 9 lines into a new file and you add the new one, or I have to think about how that flows. So you get the newest one
Yeah.
in the right place, but you basically would send it into like a temp file and then maybe overwrite the file or edit the existing file. But the one custom field could do it. I just have to think through how I would accomplish it. And I'd do it all in a custom field, I think.
There's a couple of
Okay.
ways you could do. I mean, another way is you could just append to the file, and then once you've appended to the file, just take the last lines.
Just trim, yeah.
Okay.
So you
Thank
basically
you,
you make
original
the file
Sean.
bigger than you know. So you got 10 lines. You make an 11th line and say, just give me the last 10 now. Right.
Yeah, and if you have any trouble with it, either one, if you're working with Emma or Andrew on the FileWave Assist, you might ask them. I don't think they've made something like that before, but it sounds like an improvement we could do to that custom field and publish it in the knowledge base. So you could, maybe ask them about it, and um, you could also post in the Discord channel, like for the macOS Discord channel. Just ask, how would I do this, and then you might find that maybe Sean or I end up writing a reply.
Gotcha. I'll take a crack at it and post it in Discord and go from there.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I
it's a
want
it's
to
a good
say
idea.
that I had something similar in the European training event.
Oh, nice.
Did you? Um,
Oh, I think so.
and then I forget Sean. Others. I'll say Sean Alexander, right? Um,
Yeah.
you're based in the U.S. or Europe? Were you on the European Training Day?
No, I'm based in the U.S.
Oh, so you wouldn't see. Yeah, I wonder if we should. We'll have to take a look at the stuff we have from the European Training Day. Unless, yeah, we'll have to look at perhaps publishing parts of that or figuring out reusing it so more people could see the stuff Sean did because it was all really good stuff.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate the consideration.
Yeah. So otherwise, well, I guess I could bring up in case you guys don't know about it. Apache has 2 new vulnerabilities that, or at least there's 2 new CVE bulletins about Apache that came out right after we released 14.10.1, and we are now building 14.10.2 and 14.9.3 that will both contain those fixes. But it was
Fun.
it was poor timing by Apache.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. In the other post, you referenced that 1493 would probably get published before
Yeah,
1410.2.
yeah, because it was already queued up to get released because we wanted to get, for instance, there's Apache vulnerabilities that are patched by the 14.10 release.
Mm-hmm.
That we never published for the 14.9, and we say we support the current and the one before. So we had already planned to make a 14.9.3 with the open SSL vulnerabilities addressed, the Apache vulnerabilities, and the way our QA is set up, we kind of they have to get through that 14.9 stuff, and then they'll reset and do the 14.10. It would probably be it would lead to mistakes probably if they tried to do them in parallel.
Right.
So, but it usually takes, I don't know, about a week total to QA something. I feel like I just wait for them to tell me it's ready. But as soon as they tell me that 14.9.3 is ready, I'll publish that, and then I'll have a good idea about 14.10 too.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that, Josh.
Yeah, anytime.
Quick question, if I
Sure.
may. In, I responded to the thread right before this meeting. I responded to a thread that both you and Sean were on regarding the custom field for the SSID.
Oh yeah.
And my question is more just on Discord than anything else. I know you can do the 3 backticks to do code,
Yes.
like how you did it, but Sean had like multiple colors in his code, his
Oh,
code sample. And how do you
that's
do
when
that?
you do the 3 backticks, and then there you put like what it is. So like so in the case of like a shell script, I do 3
Oh,
backticks, and
okay.
the word shell, you'll see it'll color it in green, and then you put a carriage return in, put your script, and then 3 backticks to end it, and it will colorize it. And there's a couple of keywords that they'll have in the Markdown language. So like PowerShell is a valid one, shell is a valid one. There's a bunch of them. Bat is for batch files. Sean, was that what you did when you were you doing that 3 backticks in the keyword?
Yeah, I just do 3 backticks, then do shift return to get a new line, paste in my stuff, shift return, 3 backticks.
Oh, so you didn't put the little keyword; it just colored it in.
Yeah, I don't bother
Oh,
with.
okay. So maybe that's enough just putting the carriage return. I know it supports putting maybe it colorizes it differently if you put the little keyword.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll try that next time. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I do a single, I think when I do a bit of code within a paragraph, I think I just do a single backtick, then like the command and then a single backtick, and that makes it gray. So it just stands out as like just code within what I'm writing.
But did I post anything that had colorized output?
Yes,
Um,
the SSID discussion.
Let me jump over there. You know what it was? I think you shared a link, and it was it called an embed, I think. Oh no. Do, 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 do. You know what was colored in was the Apple developer thing. That was just because Sean posted a link and it adds an embed to the message. I can sort of show it here if I. Oh no, it doesn't let me put that on the screen. Okay. Well, now it'll let me if I go out of full screen. So it was this bit in gray that you were talking about. Did I leave the audio channel?
No, you
No.
didn't.
Oh, okay.
I
I thought I
no,
might have by accident.
he had the batch file, or
Oh, this bit.
that part.
This is colorized by doing like this. I'll actually show it.
Yeah, that part.
I do it like this, where BAT.
The,
You can see it's colored a little bit. It might be hard to see, but shell is another
no, that's great.
one. PowerShell. There's a few of them. I bet if you Google, uh, there's a few keywords, but between bat shell and PowerShell, that's usually the ones that I use. I bet there's a Python too. Yeah, Python's a keyword too.
Is
So that's what does that colorizing of the
gotcha.
script.
No, the keyword is useful. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Okay. invite to speak. I think Sean left and came back. So, oh, there you are. So, okay. So then, I guess, Ryan, anything else on your end going on, or everything working well since Emma and I were there?
Honestly, I started the image building process for summer, starting up summer processes. I haven't really been able to play with a lot. We did get the Emma did finish the dashboard,
Okay.
the slideshow dashboard, and we got that panel with the appropriate group policies to no longer fall asleep. And actually, part of that, our group policies are not set to like if the policy is removed from the device, it's not
Yeah.
actually removed from the device. So I had to go in and delete the registry key on that device just to make sure it worked. But we got that going, so that's really nice. It's fun right now to watch the big number get
Yeah.
slowly smaller as they image, like, across the district, 30, 40 devices a day. So that's been nice. I did just schedule some time with Emma for tomorrow at 2:00
Okay.
to go over kind of the Grafana stuff, and also finally get around to doing that imaging MAC address reimport that,
Oh,
that
yeah,
we
yeah.
figured out. I haven't really been watching to see if it's been deleting anymore. I just again, I haven't really had time to play with that kind of stuff at the moment.
I think Emma was also gonna try and see if she could replicate it getting wiped out on
Yes.
1410.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
So yeah, I've been, head down at my desk, just trying to get starting on the. I had to download all these software updates this week, including Office. I hate downloading Office with
yeah,
the deployment tool. So
yeah, yeah, and
um,
you'll have security updates next week, I think. I think Microsoft Patch Tuesday is next week.
yeah. Yeah, I've already captured 2 of the images, but that's mostly just I want to test the changes that we've made,
Yeah,
and then because I'll do a final capture the last week of April to include all of the Microsoft updates that have come out since then. So just
yeah,
try to get them fully ready before I do anything else with them. So I'm just gonna run a couple of tests. So as far as everything else going, I haven't really had to close FileWave a lot to get things to show up. I know with 14.8, I think it was, we were finding a lot of, like, the refresh rate was going a little slow.
yeah,
But it's gotten better, so I haven't had to do it as much. Still have to do it every now and then. But again, we're operating with 20 people in FileWave at any given moment. So making changes, all that kind of stuff. So I haven't noticed a lot. I know we did the vacuum and the cleanup and all of that, and that's been really helpful. So, and then I think the upgrade to 1410 has been beneficial as well. I've been watching our testing application query the number consistently going down, so that's nice. Meaning, some things that were stuck maybe moving on and moving
unstuck.
out a little bit more. Yeah,
Yeah.
might be unstuck now. So,
Yeah, the thing
definitely,
about the needing to quit and relaunch, I
yeah.
think that I remember that there's a new version of Nats in 1410 and I
Okay,
know definitely our developers were actually in touch with, Nats is an open source project, and they were
right.
actually in touch with the folks from Nats to try
Yeah, and I think
and
that's where the new port
yep,
port number came from. Yeah.
yes, that's
Yeah.
Nats.
Okay. Yeah,
So
it's been helpful. I haven't checked with any of the text to see if that field has started populating now that we're
right.
um, on 14.10.1. So I may reach out to a couple of them this week and see if it shows up now that the
Yeah,
upgrade's been done.
that was a curious problem because I've not
It's
heard that
very
other
curious
places.
because it's
And
not
for
like I would expect it if it was a custom field. I would expect maybe a little bit more pushback from the system if it was a custom field doing some weird stuff, but the built-in field.
yeah, yeah,
So
and in this case, for just for
right,
certain roles, I guess, not to see data in there. Or I think we saw when Em and I were there that some of the data was populating in the field, or I
yeah,
should say, some of the fields were the fields was populating for some devices, but not all
right,
devices, even though
right,
there was data in the fields for all devices.
yeah, yeah. So it's very unusual.
Yeah.
I love watching model updates while I'm sitting here.
And I know there is work. Model update is everybody's favorite topic. I know there is work that's going to be happening around model update, uh,
Okay.
doing like refactoring, like looking at the thing and trying to like redo it in a better way, which is good to do to overhaul
Yeah.
something. That's why, we went from 0MQ to NATs. And I think in the end, that move to NATs will be a good thing.
Yeah.
So same idea, model update. I'm kind of hoping that maybe the button gets smarter, where it's only clickable if there is something, like
That
if I have a
needs
reason to click it, because the system must know. Because I mean, in
right.
theory, it would know. So that would be welcome, because even me by myself, if I'm working on my lab or even on a customer server, sometimes I'll do a bunch of things. I know I need a model update, but I get up and walk away to do something, and then I come back and I can't remember if I did model update before I got up, and then I end up doing it again.
Yep. Sounds about right.
So, but I guess I could look at. I guess I'd see that, maybe in the admin audit log, but I wouldn't see that for the web. I don't think.
Why not?
I guess depending. Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, no, I haven't really had a lot this week. Just been kind of monitoring things. So
Yeah.
it's, that's what my job is right now is build what I can and monitor everybody and answer everybody else's questions.
Yeah, yeah. So this week for me has been catching up from last week, but
Yeah.
last week was a
Yeah.
was a good it was a good visit,
It
and
was.
the weather lined up perfectly that we were able to get home.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah. I know that North Georgia was possibility of high winds and whatnot. That Friday, was a beautiful day here, with just some cloud cover and just some high winds, but we didn't really have very bad storms like they were anticipating, so it was really nice.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I was appreciative that the pollen got washed away for 30 minutes
yeah.
on that Thursday.
That that rainstorm, yeah.
All of 30 minutes before it's right. I mean, my car's yellow again, so
Well, if you guys don't have anything else, uh,
I don't really have
I,
anything
I
unless y'all
don't.
have some fun stuff.
Um.
No,
Oh, well, I told you this last week. That we're working on. I don't have it to show, but maybe I'll see with Tony about us showing it before it releases. Um, but we're going to add Windows imaging stuff into the web admin, into FileWave
Yeah,
Anywhere. Um,
right.
so I'll see where that is as far as progress. That it's really going to
Okay.
hit on the next version, and maybe I can show that here, or through one of our meetings, and uh, for Sean Alexander. In your FileWave Assist, maybe you'd see that if it was something. But you said you're a Macs, so maybe Windows imaging in the web would not be that interesting for you. Um, but that is one of the steps in our. We're going to make it so that hosted customers could do Windows imaging, because today you can't, and there's a good reason that you can't, because the image, when you upload the image, it goes to the FileWave server, which if we're hosting it, that means it's going off to Amazon, right? Only to come back down fully to the IVS, and it's not really great to pull, if your image is, let's say, 80 gigs, to move that much data back and forth, and so we're doing some things so that the IVSs might actually replicate images between each other, saving the server from having to do it, because there's no real point to the server doing it, except that
Right.
the server kind of holds the image to know this is the image, and if you set up a new IVS, it's going to know that this is an image it could use. But otherwise, there's not really a point for it sitting on the server. It could still let you do the association on the server, because there would be metadata about the image, and we would know where the image lives, even if it's not on the server itself. It should be pretty neat, and it may result in faster things even for on-premise, because it may be, instead of having to get uploaded to your server, it just copies to the other IVSs, and they kind of talk to each other directly, which might be quicker. We'll have to look at that.
Right. Okay.
So, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
nothing else interesting, I don't think.
I have a question, Josh.
Yeah.
So in the FileWave admin, up at the top, top right of the native, where it says, number of clients, number of clones, number of groups.
Yeah, like when
the switch builder.
Oh, yes, 11 clients, 19 clones, 52 groups. So this, yes.
Yeah. Now, is the 52 groups, is that referring to smart groups?
That
or
should
just
be
any groups?
any groups.
Okay.
My understanding would be that it would be this school A, and it would be the single app mode. That it would be all groups, unless Sean, unless you know differently.
Is that other Sean or other Sean?
He should be original Sean. The original gangster.
The purple Sean.
Unaware. I mean, I see no reason why that isn't all groups.
I believe it is all.
Yeah, that makes sense. That it would be all groups.
Oh,
So,
I could sort of prove it too. I could delete one, and we'd see the number go
Well,
down.
just create one. We'll create one.
Yeah. See, if I add a group, and now 53, and then I'll add a smart group, and I'll call it ZZ, and I'll say that it is, doesn't matter if anybody goes in there, and it goes to 54. Yeah, so that proves beyond a doubt. I thought it was, but that proves it. It's both.
It's any group.
Yep.
So, okay, so is there any type of, if you or Sean or Emma or support sees X number of groups or X number of smart groups, a yellow flag goes up in your mind?
Oh, that you maybe have too many groups?
Correct.
It's not so much, at least for me, and Sean, FileWave Sean might might have a thought on groups. I mean, in theory, okay, the more smart groups you make, there's more calculations happening on that 10-minute interval by default. So if I had 1,000 smart groups that were all calculating things, then you start to make performance issues. But where I see, maybe that also leads to the number of clones that you have, because then you end up with, for every computer, if I have a lot of smart groups in particular, right, because they're definitely making clones, then I have a large number of clones. Like Ryan had many, many, many.
Over 900,000. You can say it. It's fine.
900,000. So, and reducing that to what they actually needed. And then, cleaning up the database, there's some things we can do, like this thing called vacuum that Ryan mentioned, that, like any database, it kind of gets rid of the free space that's left behind when you clear things out. I would say make the groups that you need. And there's also a thing, and this was the case in Ryan's case, they would make groups both for reporting and for distributing content. And groups are not really meant for reporting. They're meant for assigning things to the devices. Queries are meant for reporting. And so now we don't do anything to force you down that path, because we make it so you can add whatever columns you want. We make this feel very much like I could make a smart group that says, show me the devices that were online in the past 10 minutes, and that would function. But it would constantly be creating and destroying clones within that smart group. The ID number would go up, 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 which used to be a problem. Now I believe we can't run out of these ID numbers, but still, you have to imagine the bigger the number, probably less good. But think about it that way. Don't make something here that is for, I guess, reporting. Like if I wanted, a report of all the warranty expirations of my devices, well, that's probably a query, right? If I want to assign a bunch of file sets to things, well, it's definitely a group or a smart group. And FileWave,
Okay,
Sean,
that
do
makes sense.
you have anything to add to that, or
Not that I'm aware of.
okay? Because I know you think about
Yeah.
sometimes you catch the performance thoughts that I don't think of when I think through if something's going to be a problem.
I won't feel bad about the 110,000 clones then.
Yeah, and some groups
obviously
are
you
a
can run a
necessity.
query.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can run a query against the queries to see how long the queries take and to see which ones take a long time.
Are you
Well, I
being serious
suppose
on that?
there is something you can run, but if you're on-prem, you can do it. You have to have server
Josh, one
access, right,
second, I'll
Sean?
be back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a command line that you can run on the server, and basically it runs all the queries and basically times them all and lists all their times. So you can see how long any one inventory query takes, and then it will give you a total time. So if it takes ages for all your inventory queries, like you'll see it when you very first log into the admin console, for example, and the inventory queries may delay everything, and you're sort of waiting for a few seconds or maybe more until everything starts displaying. That's probably because there's a particular inventory query that's being displayed, which is taking amount of time. And there's a command you can run on the server to basically test those. And then it gives you the timers for all of them. So you can actually identify if there's a query that's particularly computationally heavy.
Yeah, and
That would be a nice command to have.
if
How would
is your server on-prem or is it hosted?
It's on-prem.
Oh, okay. So then, I don't know, Sean, maybe you could share it in the text chat here.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that.
Thank you, wonderful Sean.
Otherwise, I'd say, Emma and Andrew know it too. So when you do that FileWave Assist thing, that could be something that you go through with them too.
Yeah, I can email Emma. We just did our monthly session yesterday.
Okay. So and there's other things like vacuuming the database, and so since you're on-prem, that is you could ask, maybe ask Emma, what performance things could we do, and she'll think of things like vacuuming the database and reducing your number of groups, perhaps to reduce your number of clones, and maybe she'll look at this with you.
Yeah, I've been talking to her about database optimization, and I think she
she shared a
part of it
file
to
with
you.
me. Yeah,
Yes.
because your Postgres config is a little bit modified from the one like my lab has, and my lab has a stock one. So I know, for instance, you have 800 connections set for Postgres, where by default it's 300. And I was trying to think through in my head, and with a little bit of Googling, would there be a benefit to setting it to 800? I don't know that there would be. In fact, I think that it's allocating more RAM. So, you'd so each connection takes up a little bit of RAM. So if anything, your server, you might want to give it some more RAM than we typically advise, so that those connections wouldn't, be impactful to the server. But she said that you thought that you hadn't, like, I guess you hadn't made changes to that. Maybe at some point in the way back past, somebody made changes to that.
It's possible. It wasn't. I mean, this FileWave instance, I inherited it, so it could have been my predecessor.
One thing you could do, and maybe shoot a note to Emma, is ask her for a copy of the Postgres config that comes like with a new install. And then what you could do is you could move your config out of the way, and you could move the default one in, and then you could restart your FileWave server, and then you could do some timings, like do timings before you move the file. Like, how long does a model update take? When you Another timing that you could do is make a custom field that is assigned to all devices that has, like it's a script, and all it does is have them echo the time, like your inventory field. See how long it takes for like 100 devices or more to get that, field, and then you could get a sense of if the timings feel exactly the same, then there was no benefit to the stock, to the modified config. And the modified config was taking up more RAM on your server. But if you see that performance, a model update takes a minute where it took 30 seconds before, then swap back in your file and let us know, because I would be very interested if the couple of tweaks that are in there, if they do make a big difference.
Right.
I've posted 2 example commands.
Where did you paste it to?
Oh, so in the top right
chat of
corner,
this event.
yeah, you can pick the chat, or actually on the channel itself, I think there's a little icon to see the chat. So like, I'll show it over here. So when I mouse over the channel, I have a little open chat. That's one of the ways you'll see it. And then it's these 2 commands, which are really the same command with different parameters on the end. Run all queries.
So the second one, I'm running it against a particular user, because obviously different users could choose to have different queries shown. It doesn't go to all the queries that are available, it goes to all the queries that are being shown. And so you might tick whatever you want, right? At least I think that's how it works.
I'm having to remind people to not change the automated resolution settings.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
But why are they changing it? You're talking about the client resolution, the conflict resolution?
Yeah. I don't know why they're changing it. I don't know. Probably because they're bored. They want to give me more work. That's really what it is.
Oh, and we have another new person. So, Kramer, if you want to be able to speak the system, I made it so you can bring yourself to the stage, it's called.
I'm not seeing the chat. Every time I hit the inbox, it does the.
Oh no, not the inbox. So here, if you look at my screen that I'm sharing, so see there's the channel on the left, and then there's a couple of
Oh,
icons here. This one,
gotcha
the
on the left.
Discord, they have to do a little bit better with.
Yeah, hang on.
They didn't.
If you close your chat at the moment, Josh,
Yeah,
hit the X and close the chat.
there's
Right.
also
And then
this
in the
guy.
right corner, there's show chat in the corner.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Let me look for that.
I
I
almost
think
wish they would just
that's easier
show it
than
by
going to
default.
the. Yeah, I think it's easier than going to the little tiny icons on the left. But of course, once you've got it open, it doesn't show the box anymore. Why would it? Right. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if like I wish they didn't used to have text chat within an audio channel, so it's great that they added it. I kind of wish they would open the little shelf by default so that you'd see it, so you'd know it was there because people don't know it's there if they've used Discord for a while. And the other thing is that folks don't necessarily know that they should request to speak, the little hand raise thing in the top corner. So sometimes when people join, I'll right click and say invite to speak just in case they don't see it. But I don't know. I think Discord's getting better at their UI, so maybe things like that'll be more obvious. Like the first time you join a stage, it should really tell you, hey, this is how it works. I don't think it does that. So,
Okay. I
okay.
found it. Thank you, Sean. Turned out I popped the entire discussion to another window and it was hiding.
Uh, so, I don't know. It's been an hour. If I mean, I'm happy to hang out if you guys had anything else, but otherwise we could wrap it up. Unless if Kramer or Kelsey, if you had questions, happy to continue if anybody needs anything.
I was mostly just here to hang out.
Virtual coffee, virtual beverage. Sean, on that second command, what's the purpose for the dash user, Sean?
Well, because each user can define their own set of, if I remember correctly, each user can define which ones are visible.
Okay.
Right. So, and for me, I've got loads that are visible, but when it only reports the ones that are ticked as visible, because they're the ones it's having to process for you when you open up the admin console. It has no need to process ones that you're not trying to view, right? It will only process them when you try to view them, and each user can have their own list, right? So you can run the command and that gives you FW admin, I believe, if you don't specify a user. But then if you specify a user, it will give you whoever it is that you specify.
Got it. Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, because and I don't know if you know this. We'll say Penguin Sean, but the ones that are checked. So like, if I check this Android 6, and now it shows over here, this is running on an interval, so it's kind of always current, which you may want for certain things. Like maybe I want to know as soon as the count of Windows 11 devices goes up, right? But by default, where we have like all of these checked, there's almost nobody that wants all these things checked, and you probably have queries of your own where it's fine if you have to, open it up to see the current data, um, everything on the left contributes to, a performance hit basically, where you can get to the point. Like I had somebody I was working with where they would open their admin and for 6 minutes no queries would show up, And we pretty easily found the queries that it was because when we looked at the number over here, it said like 600,000 for the results. So I was like, oh, that's probably it. And we went for those first and found that
Mhm.
those were actually the performance issues. But that script would have been also a super helpful way to find the big offenders and not check those. In fact, the ones that were causing them performance issues, they didn't really use. They said, those queries don't really work right to show what we wanted to show. So it was hurting them, and they weren't even benefiting from the query existing because it didn't do what they wanted anyway.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
And Ryan walked away.
Well, then let's,
Oh, he'll be back.
yeah. We could wrap up, although, we'll be obviously on Discord pretty constantly. So
Right.
maybe we'll just wrap this one up.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, no problem. Anytime. We're always here. Okay, guys.